Hello. Hello, my darling cupies. We're gonna do a little bit of something a bit unorthodox, I guess. Or at least abnormal for what I normally do anyway. I'm gonna tell you guys the story of what happened yesterday. I had an appointment with the gynecologist to try to get an IUD inserted, and it went terribly wrong. And it was an absolute nightmare. So we show up at the appointment and it's like, oh no, I have a half hour before the appointment, which was pretty cool, honestly. It's like, I like being extra early to stuff. It makes me feel less anxious, I guess, because I have anxiety about being like late to things or missing things. But I think that might be an autism thing. I'm not sure. Like, I am chronically early to everything if I can be. So when I showed up there, I was dead afraid. I didn't sleep the prior night because I was so anxious and afraid. I didn't eat anything that morning either because I was so anxious and afraid. And it's just like it was already off to a really bad start on that note alone. So I get there and they have me step on the scale, and I learned that the scale here at home is actually saying that I'm heavier than I really am, which is a little daunting because here I am thinking I'm maintaining at a certain weight and it's not even true. And then let's see. Okay, so they also take my blood pressure and ask me if it's normally low, and of course I asked them what it was, and it was, hold on. Oh. I'm sorry. It was 98 over 80, and they looked spooked from that alone, really. As crazy as that sounds. They were like, does your blood pressure normally run low? And I was like, yeah. And then I asked them what it was, and they said that number, and I was like, oh, that's actually higher than normal. That's actually really nice. That's really good for me. And they were like, oh, okay. You know? And I was just like, yeah, no biggie. And they were just like, okie dokie then, you know? And so they were scrambling around. They were a little bit disorganized, I'm not going to lie. I don't know if there was, like, a staffing issue that morning, like someone called off. But there was a lot of disorganization, it seemed, in that office altogether. They just, like, there was a lot of rushing around, frantically trying to find things, a lack of preparedness. There was nothing there ready on hand or anything like that. And it was just like, oh, God, this is, like, genuinely awful. And, you know, so that's not helping ease my tension at all. And of course I've got Ophi there with me, holding my hand, and everything. And they explained to me how the procedure is going to work, but I don't fully understand what it is they're explaining or exactly, because they didn't explain it very well, in my opinion. And so we get to the point where, okay, it's time to begin and everything. And I'm just like, you know, like I said, I have to, like, I'm asked to strip from the waist down and climb onto the table and put my feet into the stirrups. And then suddenly it's realized that something was forgotten. And so so I got ink on my knee. Anyway, so the assisting nurse runs out to get something, and there was a whole mess. And they also asked me if I wanted, like, if it would be okay. Like, they were like, hey, there's a student, is it, who wants to sit in? Is it okay for them to sit in? And I sat there and I stared at them and I was like, and they were like, you're allowed to say no. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to say no. Because I knew it was gonna be ugly and I was dead frightened and terrified. And it's like, trust me, they do not want to witness the absolute shit show that's about to go down. And I was absolutely right about that. Thank God I was like, yeah, no, this time I'm going to opt out of having a, student observing the appointment. Even though I know like how important that is, someday, like I think next summer they're going to have me starting to shadow physicians. So like, I understand it's important, but I also knew that this was going to be very ugly and that this student did not need to see this. So I guess I was thinking from the perspective of, I'm going to spare this poor person who is getting into this field from being traumatized entirely by my autistic ass having a whole meltdown because my cervix is too sensitive to handle this shit. And oh God. First of all, there were a few steps skipped because I'm a psycho. Okay, so I went home last night after the appointment to kind of cross-reference what they did versus what this instructional video was explaining to do, and it actually showed an actual patient and actually showed the full actual procedure while explaining it. And I was like, oh wow, that's educational and really cool. And so I was watching and I was like, holy shit, there are several steps here that were absolutely skipped. And there were several things here that were done to make things more bearable and comfortable. And those weren't done where I went, which kind of sucked, I'm not going to lie. But now that I'm aware of it and how it works and what happens, I feel like I'm more prepared for when I try again, because I'm insane. This whole ordeal was very traumatic, and I'm going to try again. But anyway, so they don't, you're supposed to use fingers to kind of do a wee bit of an exam before you shove any tools up in there. They did not do this. They just shoved this freezing cold speculum up into me and just open it up, and immediately I'm in pain. It's like, great, we are already off on the wrong foot. And then my anxiety's heightened. I'm sitting at the edge of the thing, but they have me seated in such a way that I cannot relax my fucking butt without risking dislocating my hips. Okay? And I'm realizing, God, there's a lot of shit I should have known before going into this. So I could have brought it up and, accommodated these things. And like I said, for next time, now I know. So let's see. So they do that. And then they fumble to find the swabs. The other nurse lady comes back. I have no idea what it was that was forgotten or missing or what. But this is going to be a recurring theme throughout the duration of my appointment. So I'm sitting there and I've got this speculum in my junk and it hurts, okay? It is not comfortable, it is cold, and it hurts. And then, it's just a whole mess. So then they grab a swab and they clean it They clean up the cervix and shit. And then they grab a second swab and clean it up again, just to be sure, just to be extra sure. And I'm like, okay, this is standard. I understand this. It was cold. It was uncomfortable, but there was nothing I could do about that. Whereas with the speculum, that was supposed to be, you're wearing gloves, so you're supposed to heat it up in your hands first before you shove it up in there. It being cold makes everything, like, as far as my muscles go, they tense. They do not like the cold. They go rigid. So that made things a lot worse, admittedly. So then, what they do next is they take the sound. And it's like this plastic tapered stick with little measurements, little lines on it that show measurements. And it's a very gradual taper. It doesn't go very thick at all. It's just tapered at the very end. And I shit you not, I was so uncomfortable when they were putting that into, like, the opening of my cervix. I was like, oh my God. And they hardly even touched the cervix yet, and already I was verbally complaining about discomfort and it being very painful. And I was, like, gripping onto Ophi for dear life, both hands clinging to her arm. And yeah, it was just, like, excruciating. And they look at me and they're like, do you experience pain with intercourse? And I'm like, yeah, sometimes, trying to spare, trying to downplay it and everything like that. And then she moves the sound further in, because you gotta have it all the way in to where it hits the top inside, like the ceiling of the ceiling. We'll call it the ceiling of the uterus. To measure, like, how deep it is, the uterus itself, so that you can adjust the measurements accordingly for the device used to implant the IUD, so you're implanting it at the right depth. So anyway, but as she's doing this, as she's putting the sound further in, I'm just like, I tense, and through gritted teeth, I half winter and half, like, I could hardly, I don't know how to explain it, like, in a very, like, halting, sort of broken way, I said, okay, maybe more than that, most times, some shit like that. I like, stammered that shit out, like, it was rough. And I don't know why they were asking that, or where that was going, because, like, it's really hazy, because, like, she didn't say anything further, because by then I went back to complaining about how uncomfortable it was. Like I said, I have a very sensitive cervix. I found my pap smear to be entirely too traumatic. This eclipsed that easily, without any, like, it eclipsed that tenfold. And so here I am. I've got all this junk, this medical supplies hanging out of my vagine, and I'm just like, oh my God, I am close to tears, and I feel nauseous. And the edges of my vision are getting dark. My heart is beating funny. It feels like I feel like my lungs start to flail uselessly to try to compensate for the lack of oxygen my brain's getting because my blood pressure's doing something stupid. And then, as a reaction to the stress and the fear and the pain of it all, my blood sugar plummets also. The other nurse runs to go get a puke bag because I have verbalized the fact that I feel nauseous. So there I am, waiting what feels like 10 years with this junk hanging out of me. While this nurse goes off to find another thing that's going to take 10 years to go find. Because let me tell you, there were multiple times that this has had to happen. There were multiple times that they left, and it felt like eons that they were gone. I was at this appointment for over an hour and a half. But anyway, so I tell that nurse is still gone, trying to find the blue barf baggie. And I'm sitting here like, okay, you need to get this stuff out of me because I'm about to throw myself off of this and puke into that trash can. You know, and so she starts taking it out, but she's taking it out slowly because she's like, you know, I can tell she doesn't want to because it's going to be a pain in the ass to do all of this again. Little did she know, we were not doing this again. So we didn't even insert the actual IUD before I tapped out. I asked her to remove all of that shit. And then as she's removing that, the other nurse is walking in with the blue baggie. I about fling myself to get it. She hands it to me, and I lean over the side, just toss my whole body over the side this direction, and start heaving into the blue baggie. Dry heaving. Just absolutely losing my mind. I am shaking. I am trembling. I am drenched in sweat, covered in goosebumps, and I am not doing well. After a few dry heaves and I realized nothing's coming up, I knew that, okay, this round of nausea has passed. Now to get into position, because there's position for me. When it comes to puking, I have position. In fact, it's weird, but it's a position I get into for a lot of things. It's not just puking. So what I'll do is I'll kind of like Asian squat like this. So I'll be like, you know, squatting, looking like down like this, hunched over something, looking like Gollum or something from the Lord of the Rings. You know, and that's how I was looking, and my blood pressure was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And like I said, I was feeling like I was in a cold sweat. Like I was covered in goosebumps. I was drenched in sweat. I felt miserable. I was shaking. I felt nauseous, and I wanted more than anything than to just remove this organ from inside me that was causing all of this agony, because it was like, this thing inside of me is still hurting and I cannot make it stop. Rip it out. You know, that was all my autistic brain could like really latch onto. That was the only thought in my head. The rest was just all nothing. And it's just like, like I said, I'm shivering and sweating as I'm dry heaving into this fucking bag. I finally get a little bit of water up because, you know, I had water earlier in the day. That's, you know. And then they fetch me some crackers. I stand up for a second. In the small intermission, I see stars. In the small intermission when they go to get me crackers and ginger ale. At this point, and that again, that was the assisting nurse. The nurse practitioner who was kind of running all of this whole procedure. She kind of like stayed there with me the whole time while the other nurse kind of went and ran and got stuff. But yeah, so I stand up, I strip off my, well, actually I wore this sweater. It was yesterday, but yeah, I wore this sweater. It's big enough that it's a dress on me. So I wore it there as a dress, and dead comfy, but I tore it off. So there I am, completely naked, just shaking and shivering. And then I crouch back down with my bag. Again in the Asian squat. So, golly, it was wild. The nausea and dry heaving didn't calm down for another 15 to 20 minutes. At least a half hour even. I was there kind of in this world of agony, trying to do anything to ease it or distract from it, and it's not working, and I'm dry heaving, and and I'm realizing this is the most traumatic thing I've ever like fucking experienced as far as physical pain goes. So I have found that my cervix is the most sensitive part of my body, and it is very sensitive to the point where everything is excruciating all the time because God hates me. So anyway, eventually I start to feel well enough I get up, I toss the sweater back on. I sit there shaking and trembling, and they're like, "Is there anything else we can get you?" And I'm like, "Salt." They bring me a salt shaker. And I put out my hand for them to pour some in my hand to lick it out of the hand. They're like, "No, just take it." And so I pour some out of my hand, and I bring it to my mouth. And instantaneously, I swear to God, instantaneously, I feel it dissolving on my tongue, as I, like, slowly, you know, let the salt really flood my system, my heartbeat starts to regulate again. My blood pressure stabilizes, and I feel slightly better. My blood sugar's still fucked 2 ways to Tuesday, but one less thing to bother me. So, anywho, when we finally, like I said, I finally felt better, and they were like, "Do you want to try again?" And I was like, "Abso-fucking-lutely not." And they were like, "Another option we can do, we can try the Nexplanon, which is an arm implant." And I'm like, "I'm familiar with Nexplanon, and I really don't want to go that route." And they were like, "Okay, you should reschedule then so that we can try something or try again." And I was like, "Yeah." And then since then, there's been further updates because I'm a busy girl, okay? I get shit done. I handle my shit, and I handle it fast. So yesterday, after my appointment, I went home, and once I finally felt good and I got my blood sugar right, and all of that, I went back here to the dorm, started doing research, watched that video that explained the whole process and showed it and demonstrated it on an actual patient. And it was like, holy shit. And some of their tools were looking a little bit like medieval, I'm not gonna lie. Like that, some of their tools were looking kind of spooky. And there was a Nigerian accent, and I was sitting there like, how the fuck are they in a third world country with these medieval looking tools? Not able to afford the shit that we got here in America, and they got better patient care and procedure in this demonstration video than any of what I just encountered that day. So I was a little bit like floored by that. And it's the thing is when I went in, I did warn them that I am autistic. I have a lot of sensory issues, and on top of that my cervix is incredibly sensitive and tends to feel pain quite easily. So yeah, I mean, there's a reason I don't really mess with like tampons or anything. So yeah. So I reach out to them after having done this research and having done a few Googles, to figure out what other things I can do to accommodate my needs, because there are multiple things there that went wrong, and these cascading failures is kind of, I know and replayed it so much in my head that it's just like, okay, I know how I'm going to avoid this next time. My hope with the IUD is that it will stop my period. If it stops my period, A, I'll save money. B, it won't be interfering with the job that I absolutely fucking hate anyway, but still. And C, it's just one less misery to deal with on a monthly basis. So yeah. I was doing research and saw something about like lidocaine, and stuff like that. Things to help with anxiety prior to the appointment, like taking something for anxiety to help relax, or like a mild sedative. And then I was like, okay, these are good points. And I was like, okay, So I emailed them last night, knowing full well that they would see it in the morning and get back to me today. And they did. And I was like, okay. I apologize for the humiliating train wreck that was yesterday. And, you know, like I said, as all this is going down, they're looking at me with absolute terror, absolute horror. Like they have never seen anyone react like this before in their life. And again, thank God I declined letting the student be in there to witness this. So anyway, so I emailed them and I'm like, okay, so I was doing a wee bit of research and I'm like, I want to try this again. And I know when I texted Ophi, I was like, I want to try again. And she's like, the IUD, you know, exclamation mark, question mark, you know, she was just really shook. She was like, what? Are you crazy? Because that was like the most traumatic thing ever. That was the most pain that I've ever experienced. When I got my appendix out, that was nothing by comparison. By comparison, it was a cakewalk. It was little kid daycare. And I got a sticker on my paper for coloring in the lines. That's what it was by comparison. Like, that appendix episode was nothing. This was the worst thing physical pain-wise, I've ever experienced. It broke the pain scale. Like I said, I was literally shivering and puking, hunched over the puke bag, looking like fucking Gollum from Lord of the Rings. And I'm laughing now because it is kind of funny to picture it, because I'm just fully nude and hunched over this little blue bag puking. It's so pathetic that it's funny. I don't know. It's just like, wow, that is unhinged. So, anywho, I did survive that though. That's what matters. And like I said, I was like, okay, I did some homework. Let's try this again, you know? And like I said, I did reach out to them and they were like, okay, so here's some of the things that we can do. Cause I also was asking them if there was any accommodations that could be made. As well as bringing to the table my own, ideas that I think would be very helpful. And then there's also my own plan. I have it written in my planner, a list of things I'm bringing with me to help bring me comfort. Like I've got this plush frog with the microwave heating bag in it. He's literally like a heating pack. I know to bring him next time for the cramping, because if I had a heating pack, that would have helped immensely. I know also to bring my headphones to kind of help give me something soothing. They said that they would give me, they would prescribe me like a single Xanax before the appointment and have me take it before the appointment, so that by the time my appointment comes, I'm, you know, I guess relaxed. And then I was like, okay, these are good ideas. And they were like, but we can't do the lidocaine because it won't numb the uterus, because we can't access the uterus to numb it. And it's like, fuck the uterus. I want you to numb the cervix. And I know it can be numbed because I Googled it. I did my homework. And they were like, and if this next time doesn't work out, we can also try to schedule something with the OR and just, you know, and implant the IUD with you under anesthesia. And I'm like, that ain't a bad idea. Shit. Takes the fear out of the equation and the pain out of the equation. I don't got to be conscious for none of it. Shit. Like, I know that's a lot of, like, money, and that's really, like, annoying and needy. But it's like, I don't know, like that. I mean, I know next time I'm going to eat something. I'm planning on eating toast, actually. Or something of the like in the earlier part of the day. Just to kind of So there's something, just in case that might have contributed to shit getting fucked. Because it could have very easily, I know that. Next time I'm also going to... Shit, what am I going to do? Like I said, bring my headphones. Bring the heating pack. And I'm gonna make an argument about the fucking lidocaine. I really am. I really am. And they're like, oh, and for pain, take like ibuprofen. I can't take ibuprofen. It's a blood thinner. And Tylenol isn't shit. I feel like Tylenol is as useless as like swallowing a Smartie and expecting it to fix things. I don't know if that's just me because of my chronic pain and I'm a spoonie and all that, or if it's like a common thing that a lot of people experience. I'm not sure. I can't speak on that because I'm not an expert. But I can say that for me, it's worthless. Tylenol is trash. It doesn't do a thing. It is as effective as taking a Smartie and pretending that's going to relieve pain. Also, Smartie candies are gross. They're like really chalky and I hate them. Ugh. But anyway, that's not the point. But yeah, so that's the story time of my failed mishap of a gyno appointment yesterday and how I'm planning on mitigating these things next time. So yeah. I hope this wasn't like too TMI or gross or awful. But it's like, I don't know. I have a feeling like if I share this, maybe somebody else might feel less alone. Because it's like, I don't know, among some areas of the bro. Okay, so in that field of medicine, in the gyno area of work, how about that? Screw you, you stupid brain. Anyway, so in some parts of it, there is actually a held belief still that like the cervix has no feeling or can't feel pain. And apparently for some people that's true. Like, my sister was like, oh yeah, no, when I got mine, all I did was feel pressure. I was like, eh? And meanwhile, I'm like, I like died. You know? So yeah. But no, it was excruciating, and I was like, I need them to like, please, lidocaine, local anesthetic, something, for fuck's sake. Like that was horrible. And like I said, on the bright side, they were willing to plan out solutions for me. So worst comes to worst, I will be unconscious and in the OR when they insert it. Worst things, I reckon. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. Sorry it was so TMI. I'm actually about to record another video and upload it too because I feel very chatty today and I have a lot of opinions and things to say because I am, what's the word, angry? Yeah, no, angry. I'm angry. So yeah. So keep an eye out for my next video because we're going to get into what I'm angry about. And it's not related to this exactly, but we'll get into it. Have a good one, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope it's going well. I hope you're staying safe and healthy. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.